The transport ship landed on Galactic Research Station Nexus 7 with a soft hiss of decompression. Commander Velox stood at the docking bay entrance, his tall reptilian frame casting long shadows under the bright station lights. His green scales caught the light as he checked his data pad for the third time. The new crew member was arriving today, and like all humans, this one would probably bring strange ideas and stranger habits. The airlock opened with a mechanical whir. Kang Do-yun stepped through, carrying a large bag over his shoulder and pulling a wheeled suitcase behind him. He looked young for a xenobiologist, maybe 30 Earth years, with dark hair and curious eyes that took in everything around him. But what made Commander Velox freeze was the small carrier in Do-hyun's other hand. Something was moving inside that carrier, something alive. "Welcome to Nexus 7, Velox said slowly, his voice deep and careful. "I am Commander Velox. You must be Dr. Kang Do-yun." "Yes, sir," Do-yun replied with a polite bow. "Thank you for having me aboard your station." Velox stared at the carrier. A soft mewing sound came from inside. "Dr. Kang, what exactly are you carrying?" Do-yun smiled and set the carrier down gently. "This is Bomi. She's my cat. I hope it's okay that I brought her. The transport office said pets were allowed for long-term assignments." "Your what?" Velox had heard the word before but never expected to encounter one in person. Before Do-hyun could answer, Chief Science Officer Yilan appeared at the docking bay entrance. She was tall and thin like most Catherians, with large compound eyes that could see in multiple spectrums at once. Her forearms moved independently as she carried different scanning devices. "The new human has arrived," she announced, then stopped when she noticed the carrier. "What is that biological signature I'm detecting? It's small, but very much alive." "It's my cat," Do-yun said again. "Her name is Bomi." Yilan's eyes shifted color from blue to yellow, which meant she was confused. "A cat from Earth?" "Yes." "Why?" Do-hyun looked between the two aliens, realizing this might be harder to explain than he thought. "Well, she's my companion. Cats are common pets on Earth. We keep them in our homes." "You keep predators in your homes?" Velox asked, his voice rising slightly. "Predators?" Do-hyun laughed. "Bomi, she's about as dangerous as a pillow. Look." He opened the carrier and reached inside. A small gray and white cat emerged, blinking sleepy green eyes. Bomi was fluffy and round with a pink nose and tiny paws. She looked around at the aliens with mild interest, then yawned widely. Yilan immediately pulled out her scanner and pointed it at Bomi. The device beeped and flashed as it analyzed the cat. Fascinating. The creature has retractable claws, sharp teeth designed for tearing flesh, excellent night vision, and reflexes approximately 8 times faster than human normal. Yet its behavior suggests complete docility. "She's not docile," Do-hyun corrected, scratching behind Bomi's ears. "She's just sleepy. Cats sleep about 18 hours a day." 18 hours? Velox couldn't hide his disbelief. What evolutionary purpose does that serve? Energy conservation, I guess. She only gets active when she wants to play or eat. Bomi seemed to understand she was being discussed. She stretched, showing off her small pink tongue, then settled into Do-hyun's arms and began to purr. The sound was soft and rhythmic, almost like a tiny engine running. "What is that noise?" Yilan demanded, raising her scanner again. "She's purring. It means she's happy. The creature produces sound to indicate emotional states. Among other things, cats are actually pretty complex communicators." A new voice interrupted them. "Well, this is interesting." They turned to see Dr. Park So-young approaching from the main corridor. She was the station's head of medical and the only other human on Nexus 7. Her black hair was pulled back in a neat ponytail, and she wore the standard blue medical uniform. When she saw Bomi, her face lit up with genuine delight. "Oh my goodness, you brought a cat!" she exclaimed, hurrying over. May I? Do-yun carefully transferred Bomi to Dr. Park's arms. The cat immediately began purring louder, rubbing her head against the doctor's chin. She likes you? Do-hyun observed. Cats have always liked me. What's her name? Bomi. Hello, Bomi, Dr. Park cooed, speaking in Korean. Aren't you a pretty girl? Commander Velox watched this exchange with growing concern. Dr. Park, you seem familiar with these creatures. Of course. I had 3 cats back on Earth. They make wonderful companions. She looked at Do-yun seriously. But you should know, this station has some unique dangers. We've had problems with Shadow Maw infiltrations. Do-yun's expression changed. Shadow Maws? Here? Not recently, but they've breached the station twice in the past 3 years. 3 crew members were killed. The creatures can phase through solid matter and hunt by detecting electromagnetic signatures from nervous systems. Yelan nodded grimly. They are apex predators from the outer rim worlds, extremely dangerous and nearly impossible to defend against with conventional weapons. Will Bomi be safe? Do-yun asked, unconsciously reaching toward his cat. She should be fine as long as she stays in the inhabited areas, Dr. Park assured him. Shadow Maws typically target larger life forms. Something her size wouldn't even register as prey. A loud clang echoed through the docking bay as Security Chief Gorak entered. He was massive even by Thulian standards, standing nearly 7 feet tall and covered in natural armor plating. His species had evolved from warrior cultures, and it showed in every movement. Commander, he said in a voice like grinding stone, I came to assess the security implications of our new arrival. His small, deep-set eyes immediately focused on Bomi. What is that? The human's companion animal, Velox explained wearily. Gorak moved closer, studying Bomi with the intensity of a military tactician. The cat looked back at him without fear, blinking slowly. It appears completely defenseless, Gorak concluded. No natural armor, no obvious weapons, minimal size and mass. This may be the weakest life form I have ever encountered. She's not weak, Do-yun said, feeling slightly defensive. She's just domestic. Domestic? Tame. Bred to live peacefully with humans. Gorak snorted, a sound like rocks tumbling. Your species deliberately weakens other creatures? We don't weaken them. We provide food, shelter, and safety in exchange for companionship. What does the creature provide in return? Do-hyun thought about it. Well, she's soft and warm. Her purring is relaxing. She's entertaining to watch. And she's good company when I'm working alone. The aliens exchanged glances that clearly said they found this explanation inadequate. She catches mice too, Do-hyun added hopefully. Mice? Yelan consulted her datapad. Ah yes, small earth rodents, so the creature does serve a pest control function. Sometimes, but mostly she just sleeps. As if summoned by their conversation, Bomi chose that moment to yawn widely, showing off her tiny pink tongue and small white teeth. Then she curled up in Dr. Park's arms and closed her eyes. 18 hours a day, Yelan murmured, making notes on her scanner. Commander Velox sighed, a sound like steam escaping. Very well, Dr. Kang. Your companion may remain, but she is your responsibility. Any problem she causes will be reflected in your performance evaluation. I understand. Thank you, Commander. Dr. Park, please show Dr. Kang to his quarters and explain the station regulations regarding biological specimens. As they walked through the station's corridors, Dr. Park filled Do-hyun in on life aboard. Nexus 7. The station housed researchers from 12 different species, each with their own schedules, dietary requirements, and cultural peculiarities. The important thing to remember, she said as they reached Do-hyun's new quarters, is that most species here view everything in terms of survival utility. They're going to have trouble understanding why you brought Bomi. She's family. Do-yun said simply. Dr. Park smiled. I know. But try explaining the concept of family pets to a species that reproduces by laying eggs in communal pools. As they entered his small but comfortable quarters, Bomi woke up and began exploring. She sniffed at the corners, investigated the furniture, and eventually discovered a heating vent near the floor. Oh, she'll love that, Dr. Park observed, as Bomi settled down directly on top of the vent. Cats are heat seekers. Within minutes, Bomi was fast asleep again, purring softly. Well, Do-yun said, watching his cat claim her new territory, I guess we're home. Outside in the corridor, they could hear the station's normal sounds resuming. But neither human noticed the way the lights flickered slightly in the cargo bay 3 levels below, or the way the automated sensors briefly registered something that shouldn't have been there. The station was about to learn that not all of Earth's creatures were as harmless as they appeared. 3 days after Do-yun's arrival, the complaints began. The first incident happened in the engineering section. Engineer Orcs was a Meldorian, which meant his body was made of a clear, jelly-like substance that could reshape itself as needed. He was working on a delicate repair to the station's main power coupling when something small and gray shot past him like a missile. Bomi had discovered the maintenance drones. The cat crouched low, her tail twitching as she watched the small floating robot move along its programmed path. To the maintenance drone, this was just another day of routine repairs. To Bomi, this was the most interesting thing she had seen since arriving on the station. She pounced. The impact sent the drone spinning into a wall where it crashed with a shower of sparks. Bomi landed gracefully, looked at the smoking wreckage for a moment, then walked away with her tail held high. Torix's gelatinous body turned bright red with anger. That creature just destroyed 3 hours of work, he bubbled furiously over the communication system. I demand it be removed immediately. Commander Velox arrived 20 minutes later to find Torix still glowing red and pointing at the broken drone with one of his temporary arms. The human's pet is a menace, Torix declared. It attacked our equipment without provocation. I'm sure. It was an accident, Do-yun said, trying to sound reasonable as he held Bomi in his arms. She was probably just playing. Playing? Torix's voice rose to a high whine. It demonstrated clear predatory behavior, stalking, hunting, killing. She didn't kill anything, it's just a drone. That drone was a sophisticated piece of machinery. Now it is scrap metal. Velox examined the destroyed drone with growing irritation. The station operated on carefully maintained schedules, and equipment failures caused delays they could not afford. Dr. Kang, you will need to keep your animal under better control, he said finally, and you will pay for the replacement drone from your personal allowance. Do-yun nodded reluctantly. I understand. I'll watch her more carefully. But watching Bomi proved harder than expected. Cats, Do-yun learned, had their own ideas about appropriate behavior. The second incident happened 2 days later in the hydroponics bay. Dr. Nimi, a plant-like Verdanian who served as the station's food production specialist, discovered Bomi digging in the carefully maintained soil beds. Stop that immediately, Dr. Nimi commanded, her leaf-like appendages rustling with distress. Bomi looked up, dirt on her nose, and meowed once. Then she went back to digging. I said stop. Dr. Nimi tried to grab the cat, but Bomi was faster. She darted between the plant beds, leaving small paw prints in the soil and knocking over several young seedlings. When Dr. Nimi finally cornered her, Bomi had managed to uproot an entire row of protein-rich vegetables that took weeks to grow. The emergency meeting was called that evening. All senior staff gathered in the conference room while Do-yun sat at one end with Bomi sleeping peacefully in his lap. The cat seemed completely unaware of the controversy she had caused. This situation is becoming untenable, Commander Velox announced. In 5 days, this creature has destroyed station equipment, damaged our food supply, and disrupted multiple work schedules. She's just exploring her new environment, Do-hyun protested. All cats do this. It's natural behavior. Natural for a predator, Security Chief Gorak rumbled. Your pet demonstrates classic hunting patterns, stalking prey, attacking, moving targets, territorial marking behavior. Territorial marking? Do-hyun looked confused. Dr. Yilan consulted her data pad. The creature has been observed rubbing against surfaces throughout the station, depositing scent markers. This is typical predator behavior for claiming territory. That's just how cats show affection. When she rubs against something, it means she likes it. The aliens exchanged skeptical glances. Explain this affection concept, Yilan requested. Do-hyun struggled to find words that would make sense to beings who viewed all behavior through the lens of survival advantage. Well, cats form emotional bonds with their companions. The rubbing spreads their scent, which makes them feel more comfortable and secure. So the creature marks territory to reduce anxiety, Gorak concluded. A defensive mechanism. I suppose you could put it that way. Dr. Park So-young, who had been quiet until now, finally spoke up. With respect, Commander, I think we're misunderstanding. What we're seeing, cats aren't just random destroyers. Their behavior has purpose, even if that purpose isn't immediately obvious to us. What purpose could destroying equipment serve? Torix demanded, his body still faintly red with remembered anger. Practice, Dr. Park said simply. Cats are natural hunters, but in domestic environments they don't have real prey, so they practice on anything that moves like prey. Small objects, things that dart around unpredictably, anything that triggers their hunting instincts. You're saying the creature attacked my drone for practice? Torix's red color deepened. Essentially, yes. That is the most wasteful behavior I have ever heard described, Gorak declared. Training without purpose, consuming resources without benefit. But there is a benefit, Dr. Park insisted. Cats maintain their hunting skills even in safe environments. It's evolutionary programming. Programming for what? Yilan asked, genuinely curious. Survival. If their environment suddenly becomes dangerous, they're ready. Commander Velox made a note on his data pad. Dr. Park, while I appreciate your defense of your fellow human's pet, the fact remains that this creature is causing problems throughout the station. As if to prove his point, the station's motion sensors suddenly activated. Warning lights flashed as the automated security system detected movement in sectors that should have been empty. What now? Velox muttered, checking his communication device. The answer came from the Night Watch officer. Commander, we have multiple motion alerts throughout levels 3 and 4. The sensors are detecting a small, fast-moving object. Everyone turned to look at Bomi, who was still sleeping peacefully in Do-hyun's lap. She's been here the whole time, Do-hyun pointed out. Check the security cameras, Velox ordered. The main screen activated, showing various corridors throughout the station. On level 3, they could see a small gray shape moving through the hallways with purposeful intent. How did she get out? Do-hyun asked, looking down at his apparently sleeping cat. Dr. Park leaned forward for a closer look. That's not Bomi. What do you mean? Look at the movement pattern. Too direct, too focused. And see the size comparison with the corridor? That creature is larger than a house cat. Commander Velox's scales paled slightly. Security Chief Gorak, initiate a Level 4 alert. All personnel remain in current positions until we identify this intruder. Could it be another cat? Dr. Yilan asked hopefully. Dr. Park shook her head. No. Whatever that is, it's not from Earth. The security cameras tracked the creature as it moved through the station's corridors with obvious familiarity. It seemed to know exactly where it was going and how to avoid the main detection systems. It's heading for the residential quarters, Gorak reported, studying the movement patterns. Should we evacuate? Before Velox could answer, the creature on the screen suddenly stopped moving. It turned toward the nearest camera and seemed to look directly at them through the monitor. For just a moment, they glimpsed its face. It was definitely not a cat. The thing had elongated features, silvery fur, and eyes that reflected the corridor lights like mirrors. It was beautiful in an alien way, but there was something wrong with how it moved. Too fluid, too controlled. "Silverling," Dr. Park whispered. "I've read about them in the xenobiology reports." "Dangerous?" Velox asked. "Unknown. They're from the Outer Rim, very little contact with galactic civilization." As they watched, the creature seemed to smile at the camera. Then it faded from view, becoming nearly invisible against the corridor. "Walls." "Where did it go?" Gorak demanded. The security officer's voice crackled through the communication system. "Unknown, sir. All sensors show the corridor is empty, but that's impossible. We just saw it there." "Natural camouflage," Dr. Yilan concluded. "The creature can alter its appearance to match its surroundings." In Do-Yun's lap, Bomi suddenly woke up. Her ears perked forward, and her eyes went wide. She stared at the main screen with intense focus, even though it now showed only an empty corridor. Then she began to growl. It was a sound none of them had heard from her before. Low, threatening, and completely unlike her usual gentle meows and purrs. "What's wrong?" "With her?" Velox asked. Dr. Park looked worried. "I don't know. Cats have excellent senses. If she's reacting this strongly, there might be something we're missing." Bomi's growl deepened as she continued to stare at the screen. Her small body was tense, every muscle ready for action. "Maybe she smells it through the air system," Do-Hyun suggested, trying to calm his cat by petting her. Cats have incredible noses. But Bomi wouldn't be calmed. She jumped down from Do-Hyun's lap and walked to the conference room's main door, where she sat down and continued to stare and growl. "She's guarding the entrance," Dr. Park observed. "That's protective behavior." "Protecting what?" Gorak asked. "Us." The revelation hung in the air like a challenge to everything they thought they knew about the small, harmless Earth creature. Outside in the corridors, the Silverling moved through the station with growing confidence, unaware that it had just awakened something far more dangerous than it could possibly imagine. The cargo shipment arrived at 800 station time, 3 days after the Silverling sighting. Commander Velox watched from the observation deck as the automated systems guided the transport vessel into Docking Bay 2. Everything appeared normal. The ship was registered, the cargo manifest was complete, and the delivery crew responded to all standard communications. But something felt wrong. "Security sweep complete," Chief Gorak reported over the communication system. "All cargo containers scan as standard supplies. Food, equipment, medical materials." "And the delivery crew?" Velox asked. 2 Hectarian traders. Documentation checks out. They seem eager to complete the transfer and leave." That was the first warning sign. Most traders enjoyed the opportunity to rest and resupply at research stations. The fact that these ones wanted to leave quickly was unusual. "Run a secondary scan on all containers," Velox ordered. "Already done, Commander. Everything appears normal." Down in the cargo bay, the 2 Hectarian traders worked with unusual speed. They were tall, gray-skinned beings with large eyes adapted for low-light conditions. Normally, they would take breaks, examine the station's facilities, maybe trade gossip from other worlds. Instead, they moved cargo containers with mechanical efficiency and spoke only when necessary. Dr. Yilan observed them from the bay's upper level. Her compound eyes allowed her to see in multiple spectrums, and she noticed that the traders' heat signatures seemed oddly uniform. No variation in temperature that would indicate normal emotional states or stress responses. "Commander," she said, quietly into her communication device, "I recommend keeping these traders under observation until they leave. Concerns? Their behavior patterns are too regular, almost artificial." But before Velox could respond, the traders finished their work. They sealed the cargo bay, submitted their completion reports, and departed without the usual pleasantries. Their ship undocked and jumped to hyperspace within minutes. "Fast workers," Gorak commented. "Too fast," Yalan muttered. The cargo containers were moved to storage level C, where they would remain until needed. The station's automated systems logged everything properly. Temperature controls activated to keep perishable items fresh. Security sensors monitored for any unusual activity. Everything appeared normal for exactly 6 hours and 43 minutes. Then the killing began. Dr. Lee Ji-won was working the night shift in the botanical lab when she heard the first sound. It was barely audible, like fabric brushing against metal. She looked up from her plant samples and listened carefully. Silence. Ji-won was young, barely 25 Earth years, and this was her first assignment on a frontier research station. She had volunteered for night shifts because they were quiet and allowed her to focus on her research without interruption. The sound came again, closer this time. "Hello?" she called softly. "Is someone there?" The laboratory lights flickered once, then returned to normal. The air circulation system hummed quietly in the background. Nothing seemed wrong, but Ji-won felt a chill that had nothing to do with temperature. She activated her communication device. "Security, this is Dr. Lee in Botanical Lab 3. Could someone check the corridor outside? I think I heard something." The response came immediately. "Acknowledged, Dr. Lee. Patrol drone dispatched to your location." Ji-won felt better knowing help was coming. She returned to her work, trying to ignore the growing sense that she was being watched. The patrol drone found nothing unusual in the corridor. Its sensors detected no movement, no heat signatures, no electromagnetic anomalies. It reported back to security and continued its regular rounds. What the drone could not detect was the creature that hung motionless on the ceiling directly above it. The Shadow Maw had learned patience during its long journey hidden in the cargo container. It had studied the station's security systems, memorized patrol patterns, and identified the locations of all major power sources. Now it was ready to hunt. The creature was magnificent in its deadliness. 8 feet of pure predator, with obsidian black, skin that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. Its limbs were long and graceful, ending in claws that could cut through steel. But its most terrifying feature was its ability to phase in and out of solid matter at will. The Shadow Maw dropped silently from the ceiling and followed the drone's path back toward the inhabited sections of the station. It moved like liquid, darkness, flowing through corridors without making a sound. In the botanical lab, Ji-won felt the temperature drop suddenly. Her breath began to mist in the cold air. She looked around in confusion, wondering if there was a problem with the environmental controls. That was when she saw it. The Shadow Maw materialized slowly, becoming visible as it prepared to strike. Its silver eyes locked onto hers with predatory focus. For a moment, neither moved. Then Ji-won screamed. The sound echoed through the station's communication system before cutting off abruptly. Emergency protocols activated automatically. Red lights flashed in all corridors. Blast doors began sealing to contain potential threats. Commander Velox reached the security center within minutes. "Report," he demanded. "Dr. Lee activated an emergency signal from Botanical Lab 3, the duty officer explained. When security arrived, they found signs of a struggle but no body. Survivors? None found, sir. Chief Gorak arrived carrying enough weapons to arm a small squad. Permission to sweep the station level by level. Granted, but be careful. We don't know what we're dealing with." Dr. Park So-young burst into the security center, still wearing her sleeping clothes. "What happened? I heard the emergency signal." "One of your colleagues appears to have been attacked," Velox explained grimly. "Attacked by what?" "Unknown. Something that can avoid our sensors and leave no traces." As they spoke, the Shadow Maw was already stalking its next victim. The creature had tasted fear and blood, and its hunger was growing. It moved through the station's superstructure like a ghost, using its phasing ability to travel through walls and floors. Engineer Torix was working alone in the power distribution center when the lights went out. Emergency illumination activated immediately, casting eerie red shadows throughout the engineering section. "Computer, run diagnostic on main power systems," Torix called out. "All systems functioning normally," the computer replied in its calm, artificial voice. But if the systems were normal, why were the lights failing? Torix extended a pseudopod toward the main control panel, his gelatinous body glowing faintly in the emergency lighting. That was when he noticed the temperature readings were dropping rapidly in his section. Cold spots often indicated hull breaches or environmental system failures. But these readings showed something different. The cold was moving, creating a trail through the engineering section like an invisible presence. "Security," Torix bubbled into his communication device. "I have unusual readings in engineering level 2. Possible intruder. No response. Security, please respond." Still nothing. Torix tried to reach the main command center, but the communication system seemed to be malfunctioning. He was alone in the engineering section with something that was making the air itself turn cold. The attack came without warning. Claws materialized from empty air and slashed through Torix's protective membrane. His gelatinous body tried to reshape itself around the wounds, but the damage was too severe. His final transmission was a gurgling scream that echoed through the station's emergency channels before cutting to static. In the command center, alarms were sounding from multiple locations. 2 crew members were missing. Systems were failing throughout the station, and whatever was responsible seemed to be getting stronger and bolder with each attack. "It's hunting us systematically," Chief Gorak reported grimly, moving from isolated targets to more populated areas. "Can we track it?" Velox asked. "No conventional sensors detect it, but the pattern suggests high intelligence. This thing knows our routines, our security measures, our weaknesses." Dr. Park studied the tactical display showing the station's layout. "It's heading for the residential quarters. That's where most of the crew are sleeping. Evacuate everyone." "To the main conference room," Velox ordered. "At least there we can defend a single location." But as the crew began moving towards safety, the Shadow Maw was already ahead of them. It had learned the station's layout perfectly during its hidden journey in the cargo container. Now it positioned itself between the crew and their destination. Tekel. Hunt was about to become a massacre. In Do-Yun's quarters, Bomi suddenly woke from her sleep on the heating vent. Her ears swiveled toward the door and her eyes went wide with alert attention. Something was coming. Something that triggered every predatory instinct in her small feline brain. She began to growl, low and threatening. But this time, no one was around to hear the warning. The emergency gathering in the main conference room felt like a funeral. 12 crew members from different species sat around the large table, their faces showing fear in ways that transcended biological differences. 2 of their colleagues were dead, and something invisible was hunting them through their own station. Dr. Park had managed to grab Bomi during the evacuation. The cat sat in her lap, but her usual calm demeanor was completely gone. Her small body was tense, muscles coiled like springs. Her green eyes darted constantly toward the sealed doors. "Whatever this thing is, it's intelligent," Chief Gorak reported. "It disabled our communication relays first, isolated its targets, then struck when they were alone and vulnerable." Commander Velox studied the tactical display. "Can we fight it?" "Unknown. We've never gotten a clear look at it. Energy weapons seem ineffective against something that can phase through solid matter." Dr. Yilan consulted her scanner readings from the attack sites. "The creature appears to feed on bioelectric energy. The more fear and stress its victims produce, the stronger it becomes. So it's getting more powerful with each kill," Dr. Park concluded grimly. "Exactly." Do-Hyun looked down at Bomi, who was now making soft chittering sounds while staring at the main door. "She's been acting strange ever since this started. Much more alert than usual." "Animals often sense danger before we do," Dr. Park observed. Their senses are more acute than most people realize. Security Chief Gorak made a dismissive sound. Your pet may have good hearing, but it won't help against an apex predator that can walk through walls. As if responding to the challenge, Bomi suddenly stood up in Dr. Park's lap. Her transformation was dramatic and immediate. The sleepy, lazy house cat was gone, replaced by something that looked like a completely different creature. Her pupils dilated until her eyes were almost completely black. Her ears flattened against her head. Her small body crouched low, and her tail began moving in slow, controlled sweeps. Every line of her posture screamed danger. "What's happening to her?" Dr. Yilan asked, raising her scanner. "I've never seen her like this," Do-Yun admitted. "She looks like she's ready to fight something." Dr. Park recognized the behavior immediately. "She's in full hunting mode. This is how cats look when they're about to attack serious prey." Serious prey? Commander Velox stared at the small cat, in disbelief. That creature weighs maybe 4 kilograms. What could it possibly hunt that would require such intensity? On Earth, cats are actually incredibly efficient predators, Dr. Park explained. They have one of the highest success rates of any hunting species. Over 60% of their attacks result in kills. Against what? Insects, birds, rodents, small reptiles. Some cats take down prey much larger than themselves, Chief Gorak snorted. "Explain to me how this tiny creature could threaten anything dangerous." Dr. Park considered her words carefully. "Cats evolved from solitary hunters. Unlike pack predators that rely on teamwork, cats develop to be perfect individual killing machines. They have reflexes 8 times faster than humans, retractable, claws that stay sharp constantly, night vision that works in almost complete darkness, and hearing that can detect sounds far beyond most species' range." "But it's so small," Dr. Yilan protested. "Size isn't everything. Cats compensate with speed, precision, and the element of surprise. They can leap over 6 times their body length, climb almost any surface, and land silently from great heights." Bomi chose that moment to demonstrate. She leaped from Dr. Park's lap to the conference table, a distance of nearly 2 meters, landing without making a sound. The aliens around the table flinched backward instinctively. "See," Dr. Park said. "Perfect balance, silent movement, calculated precision." "And the behavior we're seeing now?" Commander Velox asked. "This is how cats behave when they detect a serious threat to their territory or their family. They become completely focused, ready to fight anything regardless of size difference." Bomi began moving across the table with deliberate steps. Her paws made no sound on the metal surface. She moved like liquid, each placement exact and controlled. "She's beautiful," Dr. Yilan whispered, watching the cat's movements with scientific fascination. "Every motion is perfectly efficient." "Cats are ambush predators," Dr. Park continued. "They don't chase prey across long distances like pack hunters. Instead, they position themselves perfectly, then strike with overwhelming force in a single decisive attack." "What does she think she's hunting in here?" Do-Hyun asked. Before anyone could answer, the lights went out. Emergency illumination activated, immediately bathing the conference room in red light. But in those few seconds of complete darkness, they heard something that chilled them to their cores, breathing that wasn't coming from anyone in the room. "It's here," Chief Gorak whispered, raising his energy weapon. The temperature began dropping rapidly. Their breath started forming visible clouds in the suddenly frigid air. Frost began forming on the metal surfaces around them. Bomi's behavior became even more intense. She crouched low on the table, her small body coiled like a spring loaded, with deadly energy. Her eyes fixed on a point near the main door where nothing was visible. "She sees it," Dr. Park breathed. "Cats can see in light spectrums we can't." "Where?" Gorak demanded, swinging his weapon toward the door. "There," Dr. Park pointed to where Bomi was staring. "She's tracking something." The shadow maw began to materialize, slowly, becoming visible as it prepared to attack. 8 feet of nightmare predator with silver eyes that gleamed in the emergency lighting. Its claws extended as it focused on the terrified crew members. What it didn't notice was the small earth creature on the table, because its prey detection systems were calibrated for large life forms that produced significant electromagnetic signatures when afraid. Bomi registered as background noise. The creature's greatest advantage was about to become its fatal weakness. It had evolved to hunt large, fearful prey. It had never encountered something small enough to be ignored, but deadly enough to matter. As the shadow maw prepared to phase fully into the room for its attack, Bomi made her move. She didn't hesitate. She didn't calculate odds. She simply acted. On millions of years of evolutionary programming that said, eliminate the threat. The small gray and white house cat launched herself through the air with explosive speed, covering the distance to the shadow maw's throat in less than a second. Her claws, evolved for gripping prey and climbing trees, found purchase on the creature's phasing hide. Her teeth, small but incredibly sharp, sank into the exact spot where the creature's major blood vessels were most vulnerable. The shadow maw let out a shriek that shattered several light fixtures. It had never been attacked by prey before. Its natural reaction was to phase away from danger, but Bomi's claws were embedded too deeply. Where she touched, the creature couldn't dematerialize. The battle was brief but vicious. The shadow maw thrashed desperately, trying to shake off its tiny attacker. But Bomi held on with the tenacious grip that had made her ancestors successful hunters for millions of years. She didn't let go until the creature stopped moving. When it was over, Bomi sat calmly next to the dead shadow maw, grooming blood from her paws as if nothing unusual had happened. The alien crew members stared in absolute silence, trying to process what they had just witnessed. "Did that just happen?" Dr. Yelan whispered. "A house cat just killed an apex predator," Commander Velox said slowly. "A creature that our advanced weapons couldn't even touch." Chief Gorak lowered his energy rifle and stared at Bomi with newfound respect. "I was wrong about Earth creatures." Dr. Park smiled as she watched Bomi finish cleaning herself. "No, you just misunderstood what you were looking at. You saw a small, harmless pet. But Bomi is actually a perfectly evolved killing machine that chooses to live peacefully with humans." "Chooses," Commander Velox repeated. "Cats were never really domesticated the way other animals were. They basically decided that living with humans was convenient and safe, but they never lost their wild instincts." Do-hyun reached out to pet Bomi, who purred and rubbed against his hand. To him, she was still just his beloved companion. But now everyone else understood that his companion happened to be one of nature's most efficient predators. "The question is," Dr. Yelan said thoughtfully, "if humans share their homes with creatures like this, what does that tell us about humans themselves?" It was a question that would haunt the galactic community for years to come.